Into the last part of that first unit of GCSE revision. Now, the first unit is probably the biggest single unit, so I know that we've been on this for some time. There's the last few bits and pieces to cover, and all of this becomes very, very useful in later units, so this really is a kind of foundational unit for everything else. So we're going to look this morning at the highest common factor, which becomes particularly useful with things like ratio and with fractions in later chapters. And the definition that we need to know here is that the highest common factor is the largest number that goes into a group of numbers. By goes into, what I really mean here is divides into, so you're looking at things being divisible by a common number. So the easiest way to look at that is to look at 18 and 30. So I've asked two things. Firstly, to find the common factors, and then to find the highest common factor of 18 and 30. So we're going to do that by listing out the factors, and later on in the chapter we're going to have a look at an alternative approach which we can use for very big numbers. But 18 and 30 are quite manageable numbers, so we don't need to use a more complicated method here. So we're going to start by looking at the factors of 18. So let's look at the factors of 18 here. So to find the factors of 18, I look at pairs of numbers which multiply together to give 18. It's easiest to do that in order, so I'm going to start with 1, and 1 is always my first factor. Factors come in pairs, so 1 times something is 18, well 1 times 18 is equal to 18, so 1 and 18 are both factors. Once I've done 1, I'm going to go up to 2, well 18 is an even number, so I know that 2 must go in. 2 goes in 9 times, so 2 times 9. I then check, I've done 1, 2, then check, does 3 go in? Well, 18's in the 3 times table, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, so it's 3 times 6. I'm then going to try 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 doesn't go in. Then I'm going to try 5, 5, 10, 15, 20 doesn't go in. Well, 6, I'm already back here, so I don't need to carry on any further because I'd just be repeating myself with 6 times 3. So I'm going to write out my list of factors. We're going to go down this side and up this side. Gives me 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 18. Those are my factors of 18. I'm going to do exactly the same thing for 30. I've got 1 and 30. 30 is even, so 2 goes in. 2 and 15. Then I've got 3 and 10. 4 doesn't go in. 5 goes in 6 times, and then I would have 6 and 5, so I'd be repeating myself. So here, let me just put a line here just so that we know that this is for 30. I've got 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. So let's have a look at common factors. I'm going to underline common factors. So 1, which is in this list, is also in this list. So common factors include 1. So my common factors include 1. Well, 2 is in this list and is also in this list, so it's common to both. So 2. 3 is in this list and is also in this list. 3. 6 is in this list and is also in this list. 6. 9 is in this list but is not in this list, so I don't underline it. And 18 is in this list but is not in this list. So those are my common factors. And all it's asking for is what's the highest common factor? Well, the highest common factor is the highest number in this list, and the highest common factor is 6. Okay, so the highest common factor, there's only ever one highest common factor of a pair of numbers, and the highest common factor, if you can't find anything else, the highest common factor will always be 1. So we're going to have a look then at a slightly more complicated one, looking where I've been given 3 numbers which I need to find the highest common factor of. So again, we're going to write as a list of factors. I've got 12 is 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. 6 is 1 times 6, and 2 times 3, and 15 is 1 times 15, and 3 times 5. So my common factors, I've got 1. Let me just write these out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. That's for 12. For 6, I've got 1, 2, 3, and 6. And for 15, I've got 1, 3, 5, 15. So my common factors, the only things which are in all lists, 1 is in all of my lists. So my CFs are 1. Well, 2 is in both these lists, but not in this one. 3 is in all of these lists. And those are the only numbers which are in both lists. So the highest common factor is going to be 3. Okay, just pause the video there while you take down the examples. And I'd like you please to have a go at these 6 questions. In each of them, I just want you to find the highest common factor. Can you please do that by having a go at listing factors? Again, if you would pause the video, have an attempt at the questions, and then I will go through the solutions. Okay, hopefully you got on alright with this lot. So for the first one, you should have found that 2 is the biggest number, which goes into both 4 and 14. For the second one, 4 is the biggest number that goes into both 8 and 12. For the third one, it starts to get a bit more difficult, and we ought to be really careful here because people often make a mistake here. So people would see that 45 if they had done it without doing the full working out, but just remember that one of the numbers itself could be the highest common factor because 90 goes into both 90 and goes into 270. So the highest common factor there is 90. For D, remember that there is always a highest common factor. Now here, because 17 is prime, because 10 isn't in the 17 times table, the biggest number that goes into both of them is going to be 1. For the number 5, you're starting to get a more difficult question where you've got 3 different numbers which you're finding the highest common factor of, and again we see that 9, which was one of the numbers, also goes into itself, 36 and 45, so the highest common factor is 9. And for the last one, you should have got an answer of 25. You may not have done the full working out for these kind of questions here once you've got to highest common factor of 25. The way I would start doing this in my head is I can see that the difference between those two is 25. And so if 25 goes into both of them, there can't actually be anything higher that goes into both of them, and 25 goes into all of them, so HCF of 25. Can you give yourself a mark, please, out of 6? Okay, just pause the video there, and then if you need any further assistance on this one, please go to Hegarty clip number 31. Alright, well done.